Hey, how's it going, everybody? Buenas noches, buenas tardes. Saludos a todos. Saludos aquí a everybody over here. Fernando, Dr. Quintana, Serafín.
Saludos.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Buenos.
Toda la raza que se está conectando. All the junior raza out there, shout out. To all the locals, to all the carnales, the family. Un saludo a todos. En este martesito.
Everybody, thank you so much, and welcome to the Yo Soy Joaquin Podcast, Episode 2. We're going to jump right into the topics for the evening. Don't forget to follow at Yo Soy Joaquin on Instagram. Yo Soy Joaquin Podcast, that is. Follow at Yo Soy Joaquin Podcast. So, for the first topic for tonight, Yo Soy Joaquin. Who was Corky Gonzales?
Fernando, you want to jump on that one?
Bueno, ya, definitivamente, Corky Gonzales was my hero as I was growing up. And I shouldn't say when I was growing up. Actually, we're pretty much the same age, you know. But in the 70s, there was really not, there were not that many heroes to look up to. And there were people like Bert Corona and Corky Gonzales and Reyes Lopez Tijerina and Jose Angel Gutierrez and a few others that were doing the social justice. We were bringing to light the way that the Chicanos were being treated in this country, and everything they said was true. Everything they were saying, I had been going through as a young man, and so I related to it wholeheartedly. And not only that, I embraced it, mainly because it was the truth and nobody else had been talking about it. And I was glad that somebody was bringing it to light. So, you know, Yo Soy Joaquin is something that I hold very close to my heart.
How was Corky? What was his life like? I know that he was a boxer, or he was a poet, activist. Do you know something personal de su trayectoria en general?
No necesariamente. Todo lo personal es de que él he took everything to heart. He was a very intelligent man, by the way. He was a high IQ, and which really was very motivating. He also did as best he could to bring all factions together. As you may or may not know, he was very close to the Brown Berets, who were, in essence, somewhat militant, but nonetheless, he got along very well with them. Got along very well with all the leaders, Chicano leaders in the country. Corky took everything to heart, which is why he established the center that he did, where he had libraries for kids. He had classes. He had all kinds of training programs for children and young men and women to bring into the world, as it were, at the time. Enlighten them as to what was going on and how to deal with all affections of life. The library that he had established was quite complete, and the young men and women and the children that he brought in there, he made sure that they got to reading whatever they wanted to read, and most of the books that were there were on the life of the Chicanos in this country.
Also, didn't he focused on the youth when it came down to the Chicano youth liberation, or the Chicano youth movement, as far as the conference he held in 1968. As you know, you started, Soul here in Las Vegas, and that was another big part for us in Las Vegas. So I also, was a member of that, and when I went to college here, and I think, him and the other individuals that you talked about, that Las Vegas, as you know, growing up, we didn't get a lot of information when, people were experiencing that in Texas, California, Denver, during that urban movement of, Chicanos. So there's here in Las Vegas, we want to bring this because we want our identity, right? We've already been through the process, and he always said in that poem at the end, he goes, "We will endure," and it's important to understand that there's a lot of knowledge out there that we need to look at, and also today's situation, obviously with immigration and the politics today. It's important that we uplift the community, we keep them uplifted. As a doctor myself in the office, I always talk to patients, not just as being a doctor of chiropractic, but I also inform the patients on certain important topics of the community. So what they did, basically, they set the platform for us to basically follow and also and respect our ancestors, as you guys know how important that is. And como Mexicano, my family's from Sonora, and I know that for me, growing up being in Las Vegas, but born in Tucson, Arizona, firstborn, I'm considered what you call an anchor baby. These people in the Chicano movement they set the standard for us, and I'm very grateful for that.
So I have a question for you guys. So Corky Gonzales, and where we've been talking about who he is and what he did, and how does he compare, or how does he relate to the other most recognizable Chicanos in the Chicano movement? Because I know there was a lot of individuals, but there's only few that the names transcend the decades, right? How do you see him relating to Cesar Chavez, Dolores Huerta, Tijerina, Ruben Salazar of that time? How does he relate to that?
Well, Cesar Chavez himself, at the time when the various leaders met in 1972 in El Paso, Texas, they tried to bring him on board. And Cesar just told him outright, I'm not a civil rights leader, I am a union leader, and that's where my concentration is going to be. So basically Cesar, although he was obviously a very strong figure, powerful figure, he was not really known as
Chicano
a Chicano leader, a Chicano movement.
So he's more of an organizer.
Well, he was obviously a union organizer. The thing is that Cesar worked with African Americans, the Filipino community, and of course the Mexican and Chicano communities to really strengthen the union, which obviously was very impactful in this nation, in this country. Pero Corky, we had a number of leaders, as I mentioned them before. They basically had the same concept. We were not being treated fairly in this country. We need to know that from the very beginning, from the tree of Guadalupe Hidalgo, that really separated Mexicans. That's where the thing comes from. We didn't cross the border crossed us. And that was the time when it happened in 1847. And the thing is that the tree of Guadalupe Hidalgo was supposed to bring unity of those Mexicans that remained in the country, which is now the United States of America. Everybody was supposed to be treated equally. Of course, we were not, and that's where Reyes Lopez Tijerina comes in, because land grants were given out, and yet the land grants were being taken up by the if I may use the gabacho, the gringo, the white, the Caucasian individuals, the leaders, that they were taking this land and making it their own, the farmers, etc., which really, from the very beginning, as I said, things were starting off on the wrong foot. And the Texas Rangers were created to of course, basically hunt down Mexicans and actually kill them. That was their purpose in life. And again, Lopez Tijerina and Angel Gutierrez and Bert Corona and those people wanted everyone to know that this was happening and had happened, and that we as a young nation at the time, the young Chicanos, to be able to be geared to confront those kinds of discrimination and the kind of treatment. Unfortunately, it really didn't happen. To this date, we're going through a lot of turmoil.
Just to add to that, as a personal story of that, I remember when I went to Rancho High School, and there was a lot of issues in the 80s and 90s. We had a lot of gang issues, obviously, in our community. But however, I remember my parents, they moved us to Chaparral High School. And I remember, basically, I wanted to be a doctor at a very young age. At 15 years old, I decided to be a chiropractor. But I remember those issues because when I went to transfer and I moved to the community in Chaparral at the time, which was mostly in white Anglo, school, I went to register to school. And the first day of registration, they took me to the principal's office. And the principal of that school asked me, what are you doing here? And so I'm registering for school. I play soccer. I want to become a doctor. And I remember my mom sitting in the middle of me, and this when I learned when I needed to make some moves because They would not let me in Chaparral High School at the time because they said I was from Rancho High School, and because of certain incidents. But I also knew everybody in the soccer team. There was players there at the time that weren't even from that school, and ended up going to El Dorado. But the fortunate thing, long story short, we ended up playing Chaparral and in one of the county finals for the city, and then we ended up beating them 2-1. But I took that as a lesson in life that you will be faced in a situation where you're gonna have to stand up for yourself, and that was one for me because I was considered what they call a push out. There's dropouts, and there's actually a term called push outs. So I had a hard time getting back in school because I wanted to go back to Rancho, and they wouldn't let me in because we moved, right? So long story short, I think we're faced with that, and I don't think we really recognize it. And I think it's kind of watered down now, but in reality, there's still people still going through similar situations. But they may not be able to stand up for themselves. And these people, like with La Raza Unida and how they got together, to form the convention, and with Corky Gonzales now that now that I've learned more about him and how important he was. I was a boxer myself, so I can relate. When you get down, when they knock you down, you got to get back up.
Very good, gentlemen. Let me just interject really quick. We got some comments from the live on the IG. So let me just turn on my camera here and give me a second. Who do we got? LAEWA.local11. Viva Corky Gonzales and the Crusade for Justice out of Denver, Colorado. Thank you so much for commenting and being on the show with us. We got Yoli01. As a young Chicana, I attended Crusade for Justice in Denver, organized by Corky Gonzales. I Am Joaquin, one of my favorite poems. Orale. I like that. Okay.
Thank you for sharing.
That's badass, man. Keep sharing, asking questions, and we'll be right here. On a personal note, man, I want everybody out there to go check out that poem. You'll say Joaquin, check it out. As we make this podcast, we're going to be talking a lot about Corky, and just go check out that poem. I've heard it a bunch of times, and it gives me something new every single day. One of them that I related to is like, ¿Quién soy yo? Soy los dos. Soy un mestizo. Soy un español con un indio. Soy Raciel. Yo soy Joaquin. It's powerful. Are we going to the next one? So let's seguimos con esto, Rob? Or what are we doing?
Yes, sir. Let's move on to the next topic. Chicano art through the history. More than just murals. Let's elaborate on that. Chicano art through the history. More than just murals. What do we got to say about that?
Dr. Quintana was having a conversation this morning about Chicano art.
Well, I think that's, I think Fernando could speak for that as well, because I know that how important that was with the murals and the artists. I think when you go look into Corky Gonzalez's history and what they did in their laboratory over there, they started with the art, with the poets and the writers, and they started with the youth because they were trying to communicate to the country and to the world that how important it was for them to be part of this country. But at the same time, we've been here all this time. So Atzlan it's an important term that Corky talked about. He wanted to make sure that we said that it came out of our lips, our mouth. And at the end of that poem, he said also that we will endure. So arte itself, is very important, because even with my community where I'm at in my practice, I started off with a poetry open mic event, and it brought everybody out. And what was so beautiful was it was from different ages. So for me, it showed me, and Serafin can confirm that community there where we grew up needed a voice. So poetry is just a way for people to express their true essence of who they are. But la arte, cultura, they set the standard. And every movement, in all parts of the world, you're always going to see the importance of arte and cultura and poetry.
And very few artists are really given that credit. Now, I don't want to pretend that I lived in L.A. or was there every other week, but I do know that some of those murals on the walls, etc., were obviously against the law initially, until the community got together and said no to the cops. You cannot destroy those murals. Those murals are our culture, and consequently, those murals along, particularly the Chicano Park, remain. And they really bring out that the culture, our culture. And I give a lot of credit, too, to Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera, because they really initiated it all, in my eyes anyway. Frida's art still lives. It's just as popular today as it was back in those years. I can tell you that last summer, my wife and son and I went to Mexico City, wanted to get into the Frida Kahlo Museum. We couldn't. It was full. We had to make reservations, and it was like 3 days behind. That's how popular that art remains among our people, because it does bring out our people. If we look at and analyze almost every painting that they did, Frida and Diego, it's us. It's us then, and it's us today.
And to add to that, if you guys see behind us, obviously we got Arte de Moises, who provided this piece behind us of Corky. He provided that initial art piece there to the family. You can see it in Denver as well, for those of you in Denver, at Servicios de la Raza, with that community. But once again, we're not, como Mexicanos or Chicanos, we're not a walking museum. We are part of this Aztlán, this history, and a lot of people don't know about it. And I thought more people would know, but the reality is, we need to, really start the process again of bringing back those artistas and put them at the forefront, and really bring the perspective of Mexicanos, Latinos, when it comes to the Southwest, because a lot of those people who started that process were from the Southwest.
So as far as the murals and the art, if you look at pre-Columbian history, that's how they communicated. The artwork on the walls, I mean, some of them are still there from, many, many, many years ago. En los pueblos en Mexico también, muchas veces la gente no sabía leer. They didn't know how to read. And a lot of the messaging, a lot of the story and the history was taught through pictures, through murals. And then now, in the 70s and the 80s, that's something that really brought our neighborhoods together, something that was something positive. Everybody wanted to hang out by the mural. Where I grew up on 28th Street in Sunrise, there was a couple murals in that area, and everybody wanted to gravitate to those spaces as a place to meet, congregate, and in some places, some people, it was some sacred space, because those are the things that told our story where nobody else was telling our story. It wasn't told in books, and back then it wasn't really told in songs. So a lot of it was expressed through art on the walls, and even though some people looked at it as graffiti or something like, como dice Fernando, illegal at some point, it was the only pure thing that was telling the story of the barrios. So it was very significant.
I'm in the graphics world, and one of the things in high school, I remember I used to draw and do sketches, and I always sucked at it, man. I really sucked. I had some of my friends, they do some good ass, graffiti, placazos, esto, y yo no podía. I don't know how I ended up in the graphics. I couldn't even do the perfect circle, but I love art, man. And I want to give a shout out to artist El Moises. He just did a piece for me as well, El Si Se Puede, and it's a talking piece every day, man. And his Instagram is, check him out, Instagram, artist El Moises. Look him up. He does some badass art. I think he's in New Mexico, no?
He's in New Mexico, but I was fortunate to meet him when I was in Phoenix from 2002 to 2005. I had a couple clinics in South Phoenix. I ended up in South Phoenix, opened up a clinic off of Central, and that's where I met Moises. When we used to have art shows in the office with my other partner there, Jeffrey Garza Walker. We had founded the first South Mount Levine Chamber of Commerce. We put that together, and we had events there for the chamber, but also we have every month we would basically showcase the Latino artists, Mexicano, Chicano artists there, and that's where I met him. And then from there it started, and he ended up traveling to the Nuevo Mexico, and he basically, fortunate to us, he's contemplating to come out here in Vegas to help us out here with this process. I know everybody's had a conversation with them, and hopefully we can bring him as a guest for the people so they can hear from him directly.
He's a solid dude. Check him out. Artist El Moises on Instagram. Want to give a few shout outs. Just Robert from LA to Phoenix, back to LA. We are discriminated in many places, even sometimes people that look just like us or ourselves. Facts, man. Siempre hay un cangrejo que baja. Isaac 13, Local 714 Concrete. What's up, brother? Shout out to Local 714 out there. And we got Orange County, Carpinteros, Isaac 13. Saludos, carnales.
Awesome. Thanks for shouting out the comments and then shouting out on the live, everybody. Let's move on to the next topic that we got for tonight. Nevada. Next topic that we got for tonight, Nevada Assembly Bill AB 238. What are our thoughts on this one?
Well, we should hear your thoughts on it. I think because
lot to say.
you're really the expert on this, Rob, and really, I'm interested in hearing what you have to say about them.
Sure. Give me just a moment here. Let me get on camera. So thank you for bringing me into the conversation. So with AB 238, I think it's going to be a great thing because it brings a whole ecosystem in the business sense for Las Vegas Valley. And what that means is jobs, especially with vocational training. So with this industry, just like with hospitality that Las Vegas thrives on, you don't necessarily need a college degree in order to advance up the ranks, especially within production management. And with the people that we are and the raza, the gente, the people that we are, we like to work with our hands. That's going to be very productive, and that's going to help us get up in the ranks in production management throughout the sets. And I mean sets for film and sets for commercials, not the streets, right? Okay. And
I like that.
That with the right training, if we do it now, by the time that the big studios like Warner Brothers Discovery, Sony Studios comes into the picture, we're going to be primed, prepped, and ready to be able to take advancement careers within the industry. But we got to do it now. And I just commend everybody that's really trying to pass this. Raciel, when we were over there at the building, seeing that the voting for the Committee on Revenue and all the union strength and support that was there.
What about over 100 bodies in there with different building trades? It was pretty awesome to
There was
see
so
that
many
support,
people.
bro. Yeah.
They had to open a second room, you guys, in order for the overflow, just for people to come and support. So shout out to everybody that's really trying to push this bill. Thank you so much for that. What are your guys' thoughts on this?
You can't go wrong, bro. 18,000 jobs. They said they're ready to, with private money, ready to invest. I mean, you just don't see, we need it. I know some of the construction unemployment is really, really high in the state of Nevada, so it's very much needed, and they all got that. Everything's ready, man. If we just need to get that bill approved.
I think Serafin, being the people's champ, has a really good perspective when it comes to those kind of things. And I remember when we first started talking about it, Serafin definitely had a perspective of, not forgetting about those youth and our raza in the community that can benefit a lot from this. So when we speak to our politicians and we speak to the business people, it's important that we all stand up and we go there and we talk to them how important it is to look at the east side, north side. For example, like the Vegas Golden Knights, they went to Mexico. And they started to, talk about recruiting people or recruiting, for the future athletes. However, someone made a comment in a review journal, like, don't forget about the east side. We got a lot of Mexicanos over there that can benefit also from playing hockey. So, Serafin, could you give us your perspective on that? So
definitely this bill, there's actually two up there, SB 220 and AB 238. It's coming, regardless of what the vote is. That industry is coming to Vegas for many different reasons. Hollywood 2.0, as we know it, or as it's been shared. Not only is it going to provide jobs for the community, but diversifying the economy is something that's very important. We want to be able to rely on other industry aside from just the tourist industry. We all seen what happened in 2020 with COVID. I mean, never in my life had I seen the strip shut down. That was epic. It was kind of weird driving down the strip and everything was closed. Nothing was happening down there. So, I mean, we need to diversify the economy. But something more important than that is to be able to have access to this economy so that it's not just for the elite, not just for those that are in the know. We need to be able to provide something that's going to inspire and motivate our youth. Being able to provide these types of trainings and workshops to awaken the interest in the youth, to give them something to hope for. One of the things that Rob mentioned is that this is an industry that doesn't require a 4-year education and a couple $100,000 worth of school debt. And it is something exciting. If you talk to the youth, everybody's interested in content creation. Everybody wants to become a YouTuber. Everybody wants to become an influencer. So, give them something that will spike their interest, that will feed their curiosity and their ability and desire to hope for something better. I'm all for that. We want to be able to incorporate those trainings to our local youth here as soon as possible so they can start looking into what's next, right? How can I prepare? Because that train's going to be here a lot quicker than we know. And
that's why we started the Yo Soy Joaquin podcast, because we've been left behind. I mean, we were born on this land, whether we call yourself Mexicans now or Chicano or American. Again, going back to the refrain about the border crossing us, is that we were left behind. We allowed that to happen. We were afraid to really come out and insist that we be included in everything, in all the changes and everything that was happening. And now I think we have to look at that poem, analyze it wholeheartedly, and live by it, because it does include us. The only thing is that we have to include us in that movement. Yo por eso I'm calling this new bill the Chicano Hollywood, because of Rob Macias bringing in his talent and hopefully developing the talent. It's up to us. They're not going to do it for us. And we haven't learned from the past. We've got to learn from what has happened and where we are now. And I think that we have to really impose ourselves on this new industry. We have to be out there in the forefront. We know it's going to pass. The bill's going to pass. The thing is that we have to be really dominant in pushing forward and making darn sure that our people are included.
So let me add something to the mix. You guys have probably read or heard that Nevada Partners is going to be receiving a substantial amount of money to have a vocational training center at Nevada Partners. Have you heard that?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So for those of you that know or have been to Nevada Partners, you know the facility, you know the area. So it's awesome that it's coming to the inner city, but I still think that there's a need for even more training within the inner city and the community.
Well, and bringing it into our community. I remember when Nevada Partners was started. It was initiated by Bob Maxey at the MGM and other people. They brought in all this money. They also brought in a man by the name of Stephen Horsford to run it. And Stephen Horsford did what he had to do as a politician. He brought in programs that benefited his community, which is great. I take my hat off to Stephen Horsford, who is now congressman. But we have to do the same. That's why I said we have to impose ourselves. We have to look at a building, as an example, the state building on Washington and Las Vegas Boulevard North, and say that's going to be our training center for our people in our community. And then have our own Stephen Horsford direct it and guide our youth. Again, one of the reasons I started the Student Organization of Latinos back in 1969 is that we didn't have roots. No teníamos raíces. I mean, all of us were coming in from other places. There were a few people that were born here. Judge Mendoza, for example, was born in Las Vegas. He passed away in Las Vegas. The thing is that we have to bring in. We are now here. 900,000 of us are now here, and so now we can demand. We can really impose ourselves on the community, on government, and say, we need this building, a training center that will include a great majority of Chicanos and Latinos to be trained into this beautiful industry.
And I think you're correct, because now we are here. You know, for me to become a doctor, it wasn't an easy path. You know, and speaking with, like I said, I had many conversations with Serafin, and the conversation that we had in the beginning when I visited him and at his Chicanos por la Causa, it led us to Chicano Hollywood, and through LinkedIn, actually. And it's going to take people to reach out and start communicating. But it is true. We do need that. I think it's important that a kid see a Chicano, Latino, or raza at a position of at the table, right? When it comes to community outreach, and also making sure that people understand when they're not from the Latino community. Just because you have Taco Tuesday doesn't mean that you understand tacos. You know, because for us, we've been eating tacos from the beginning. I remember if I had a tortilla and it was bologna in the refrigerator, I would put bologna in there. And I would eat that.
Well,
put some hot sauce.
That's a taco.
I learned about bologna here. So when it comes to
you got tapatio, man. You got
tapatio, whatever I had. But while I was being raised in here in North Las Vegas, Tonopah and Eastern Civic Center and Lake Meeting, I'm very grateful that my homeboy here to the left was being raised with this family, beautiful family that I got to know as a kid playing soccer at the same time. And when he told me, and I like to share this, Serafin, when you were a kid, you took care of newspapers in the community. When you told me you were on a bike throwing newspapers, I was like, wow, you were entrepreneurial even back then,
And I'll never forget how that came about. For those that have been here in the Valley for a while, there was a Wonder World on Eastern and Owens, and I remember I was going to go into the 6th grade, and my mom took me and my 3 little brothers to Wonder World to buy us shoes for school, and I'm like,
me too,
Mom, I want to get some Nikes. I don't want the tracks. I want some Nikes. And my mom said, Mijo, this is all I can afford, My mom was a maid, And I remember, I get emotional every time I think about it, man. I remember I said, as a kid, I didn't think about that. All I thought about was, shit, I want some Nikes, like the other kids. And I remember walking home from Wonder World. We lived on 28th Street in Bonanza. I walked home, and all the way home, I'm thinking, ¿Cómo le voy a hacer? What can I do? I want to start making some money. And that's how I got my first paper route. And I got myself my first pair of, Nikes, and my little brothers their first pair of Nikes. But I say that to say this, we all come around this table to have these conversations because we feel the same passion for our community. We want to be able to give those kids the opportunities maybe that we didn't have. We always hear about, I want to give my kid everything I didn't have. And sometimes we tie that to material things, but we want to give them opportunities we didn't have. We want to give them, especially when it comes to this, something so important and innovative as the film industry. We've seen what it's done in other places like Georgia and California, and it can happen here. And we need to be at the forefront, and we need to be able to, like you said, Fernando, demand it. But the way we need to do that, and I say this every time I get the opportunity to say this, is we need to come together. We need to work together, because 900,000, but if out of the 900,000 only 0.01% work together, then it doesn't really mean that much, No,
we have to get rid of that cangrejo philosophy, and we really need to help each other, especially those people that we've elected into public office, to have them work for us.
Represent us.
Yeah, they need to do that. I mean, they get elected, all of a sudden, where are they? You
Cabrón, you work for me.
Simon, and that's got to be done. We have to do it that way.
And also, it's not only that, the people that in the community too, talking to your, for me, like I said, as a doctor, I'm always talking to my patients, how important it is to be a part of the process. So there's a lot of people out there that, besides the politicians to talk to, is our community to remind them why they came here. Because during the bracero movement, as you know, people come here during the bracero movement because we needed braceros, right? We needed agriculture. We always have agriculture in this country, but you have to kind of look at it in perspective that they came here with one intention to gather, funds and for their families in Mexico, and to also have a home in Mexico. So a lot of people, like my dad said to me, he said, "Sir, I'm going to be working here, but me voy para Mexico." But he got used to being in the United States. He's still here, and that's okay too. And there's beautiful families that have homes here and have homes there, and they can go back and forth just like Canadians do. It's okay. I know you said you like to do that yourself, but, we all have an opportunity, and I think right now is a good time, Fernando, like you said, is to engage and to empower the not only, to talk to our politicians outside of the Mexicano, Latino raza, but also to our people, to ignite them and light the fire.
Absolutely.
And that's what basically, will get us to where we need to get.
It's a prime opportunity right now. It's like Serafino always says, it's fresh soil out here in Las Vegas. So we need to take advantage and plant those seeds and cultivate something very, very nice for decades to come, for the generations and for the people of our valley and for our gente. And going off that, I just want to get to the IG comments. It says here, plumbing against everyone. Feels good to see the unity you guys have. Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you.
And then I want to give a big shout out to Chicano Hollywood, to Johnny for bringing us all together. And we'll be seeing you here in a couple of days, man. We'll be seeing you soon.
And Chicano Hollywood should not just be a phrase that we use. We have to implement it. Yeah. We have to make it a philosophy. We have to ingrain that upon our kids, our young people, and our older people. Because there are people my age that we were treated so badly in Texas that when we left, we changed that total. Some of us even changed our names, and it's so sad. But we got to bring everybody back into the fold. Chicano Hollywood lives.
Facts. To the raza out there, we're going to end up our life. We're going to continue. However, this podcast, if you guys want to check out the rest of this, go check it out on YouTube. Rob, what's going to be your YouTube channel? If you went through.
Yes, you can follow everything at Yo Soy Joaquin Podcast on YouTube, and also make sure you follow on Instagram, Yo Soy Joaquin Podcast.
Thanks again. Thanks, raza. And then we'll see you guys on YouTube. Un abrazo y sin miedo al éxito, cabrones.
Gracias.
Adelante.
Welcome back to the Yo Soy Joaquin Podcast Part 2. Thank you for checking us out on Spotify and on YouTube for the full length of the episode. Make sure that you follow us on Instagram at Yo Soy Joaquin Podcast. So, gentlemen, getting into the next topic for the show, that is Elon Musk and job cuts. Are this good for the country? With DOGE, what's happening? What's your guys' opinions on this?
So, Raciel, you had a good example of how you go through your budget adjustments every year.
I don't want to compare myself to the government, but as a small business owner, my team is about 20 people. Between the 20 people as my team, also vendors, providers, monthlies, programs that we pay. So every single year we audit ourselves. My wife literally comes in and audits me, audits my brother, audits the departments, audits the vendors, audits. So when he started doing this, I'm like, okay, he's doing what any business would do. So I thought it was positive. But when I started seeing what he's doing in the other side, when he's doing cutting, putting tariffs with that, because he doesn't want the competition for Tesla, where he's grabbing that money and put it into his rockets or putting into his billionaires. See, I don't know where this is going to end, where you're just going to grab a hose, cut the water off and then just go to the other side and turn on the water. Here you go. So where is this going to go? I think it's good that type of business strategy, because it works for us. I'll give you an example. Just on my small business, all of a sudden, my wife is like, why are we paying $10.99 for this program that you guys never use? And we've been paying it for 10 months, and then you have another one. And then maybe there's a department that needs to be ran with 3 people, and I have 5 there. But the other department over there needs 2 more, and I'm trying to hire. So there is things of doing that type of audits as a businessman that work, and we do it every single year. While you're taking out, you're grabbing this and putting it over here, because now you got your different friends and family over here. Then it's just cutting the fat and taking the fat to somewhere else. We will see the results.
Well,
my opinion.
Not to interrupt, but we forget we got the human factor involved with this, and I think when it comes to, remember he was president before, and I think he got to learn the system, and I do think that this time he is going to basically be putting whatever narrative President Trump might control. And this is politics, and Fernando, I think you're more aware of that, and Serafine as well, and how it works. So you're going to be putting your own. And so you'll probably put in your own landmines for the future. They're not thinking just for this election. When it comes to, we have 3 branches of government. So you have to have, if you go on the internet and you look up each president, and for example, how many judges do they assign during their presidency? So obviously, Biden, even towards the end, I'm sure he put a lot of judges in position to deal with some of this, because they knew it was coming. And I know that I was just the other day listening, even Bill Clinton and Al Gore. Al Gore did something similar as well. They had to trim the fat. I think all businesses do that, but they control the narrative to make it seem like it's like, oh, son chingones. And when I debate friends who are Republicans, sometimes, they're the first thing, oh, he's a businessman, he's the CEO. That the federal government, the United States of America is yes, we have business, but when it comes to the government, I don't believe that we should treat it as a business only, right? And I think, when it comes to, Chicanos and our culture, we're basically been watered down to think as a consumer only. But yeah, we're from Mazatlan. Once again, we're from here. We don't just think about when we come, to a Mexican family party. I've been to parties that are non-Mexicanos, and they're like, I had one time a friend of mine who played soccer. He invited me to his 4th of July party. He comes out and makes an announcement. This is kind of a little side note. He says, okay, everybody gets 1 hot dog and 1 hamburger. Right? And I'm like, dude, what are you doing, bro? That's not our fiesta, bro. You know, when you come to our fiesta, you know, we just let you eat and have what, you know, because of the type of people, right, that we are. However, when it comes to business, I think there is compassionate management. Actually, you could look that up. There is CEOs now who are looking at, you know, dealing with these kind of things. Like when a person fails, they don't just throw them out. Sometimes they just need some little assistance, some training to get them where, like you said, to a level where you feel comfortable. But that's something that's grown a lot. But we have to really kind of respect the human factor. There's people who live right now who have 2-3 children, or maybe could be a single mother working for the federal government.
Oh, that's facts.
You know,
and we're talking about
and
thousands
they have to pay
thousands.
their bills. But I get the fact that, you know, when it comes to politics, they're going to clean their stuff and put their people, and then the next government who comes in next, it could be a Democrat, and they got to have all those people in place, and then they're going to argue that same argument, right? If someone else comes in the future, and Fernando, you probably be a good, you know, spokesperson. How should it be? How should the federal government run?
Well, not the way it's running now. You know, I've never seen in all my years, and I've lived a lot of years, thank God, but in all my years, I've never seen the outward corruption, the outward cynicism, the negativism that is going on now. One thing is to, as Raciel was alluding to, okay, you have 5 guys doing what 3 guys should be doing. Musk is going over and getting rid of all 5 guys. You know, like me here in Southern Nevada, he got rid of everybody. People that were testing the waters to look for algae and all that other bacteria and all, et cetera, to protect the people, the citizenry. He got rid of every single person. They're getting rid of the FBI agents, FBI investigators. Why? Why are they doing this? I hear that Trump is going to pull out all those free chargers in the federal buildings, you know, for electric cars. Why? What he said was that, well, we want to investigate to make sure that everybody's being serviced properly. But the underlying theory is that he's doing it for Elon Musk and Tesla automobiles. And he's going to get rid of everything else. Because pretty soon, because of the tariffs that are going on, Mexico will be starting to import their cars, which is the, ¿cómo se llama? Olinia.
Yep.
And they're like, supposedly some of those cars as low as $10,000.
You see, the technology is just as good or better at 40 to 60% cheaper than your standard Tesla car. And I believe they already came out with their first or second ones.
They already did.
Yeah.
They already did. But
And that's the reason that Elon started going with Trump. It was the right move for him, and he betted on him because of this reason. And,
I seen an article this morning that his net income has doubled since November 5th, since the election, since Trump won.
Although the stock has down 30%.
But his income is over $400 billion. So he's increased like 275,000 just from November 5th. All these benefits that he is obtaining through his, co-presidency in the White House. I lived through. I worked for municipal government for 30 years, and I got to see when we went through the recession, 2008 through 2010. The city of Las Vegas laid off a lot of people. There was a lot of people that lost their job. And the ones that didn't lose their jobs, they started to try to privatize those departments. So instead of paying city salary with benefits, they would hire an outside firm for less, right? So they did that because they needed to. North Las Vegas did the same thing. When they were about to go into receivership in 2013, the state was going to take over the city of North Las Vegas, as you know, Fernando. There's things you need to do to adjust the budget based on emergencies, unpredictable situations like Badlands with the city of Las Vegas now, $500 million. So there is adjustments that need to be made when there is such urgent situations. But right now, the way they're doing it, they're cutting whole departments, and not just departments that provide, a necessary need, but some of them are those departments that hold people accountable, that are policing how government is functioning, how government is spending money, how government is investing in other areas. So basically, one of the things they're doing, along with taking away certain vital services for the whole country, they're also getting rid of those departments that should police and make sure there's checks and balances in place with all the stuff they're doing. So,
but they're doing that to grease their own palms and the palms of their friends. As an example, they're wanting to get rid of public education. Why? Because they want to emphasize the private schools.
Choice.
And school choice, which is private schools, or charter schools. Charter schools are run by private corporations, as are private schools, which means that the rich are getting richer and the people that need public education are not getting it and will never get it if they get rid of public education.
Yep.
So it comes back to contracts for the rich. The more contracts, the more money.
There's a question for
But
you guys.
there's something that's going on, that is really corruption.
Politically, like here's the question, right? So if let's say Al Gore, did that for Clinton, right, to behind doors, behind the scene. Now, is there a possibility? I was listening to a commentary where basically that is there a possibility that DOGE is doing that as a blitzkrieg perspective, as quick as possible, right? To not allow the senators, Republican senators or Republican congressmen go up for a vote, and it basically kind of like would disguise their perspective until they're going to be forced by the public to be voting on certain these to keep people's jobs. But it seems like they're just kind of laying in. Let's talk about the Senate and the Congress. They're laying in the background. They're not just kind of letting it watch it happen, but they're not voting on it. So I'm kind of thinking to myself, is there a possibility they put him in there for that process to do it as quick as possible until basically the public and like the town hall meetings, they canceled those as well because the public started speaking, hey, I wasn't supposed to get fired. So is there a chance, Fernando, politically that we would do something like that where they would use DOGE as a front person so that way the Congress doesn't vote on these issues or the Senate?
As you sabe, today marks the 43rd day that Trump has been in office. 43 days. And look at all the harm they have done. It is incredible in a way, and Serafin just mentioned it, that they're garnishing up all this money that they're saving for themselves. Porque, there's no way you can tell me they're getting rid of the top 7 positions of FBI agents in Las Vegas is doing us justice. Is doing somebody justice, themselves. And the problem is,
I didn't know that.
We have the problem that we have a House of Representatives that is majority Republican. The Senate House is majority Republican. The Supreme Court justices are Republican. And the whole branches of government are now united in one. And that one is Donald Trump. And he is the one that is managing everything. And again, they're outwardly getting rich and nobody's saying anything. I've never seen a president go out and sell Bibles. I've never seen a president go out and sell Bitcoins. I've never seen a president
meme coins.
Sell tennis shoes.
Yep, meme coins for him and Melania.
Yeah.
Steaks.
And so it's one of those things that the people are allowing this to happen. Why? Because of the so-called 3 branches of government. And we're allowing the Republicans to take advantage of it. And somehow or another, the Piper of Hamlin, Trump, is having his lemmings just go his way, do whatever he tells them. Because I have a feeling that somehow or another, all those guys and women are going to get their palms greased. And it is one of those things that we as a people are going to suffer real badly. Again, just think of it. 43 days in office and already all this harm has been done. And
so let me ask you guys have seen the town halls that are being hosted by Republican elected officials, and the majority of the people there aren't happy. So what do you think the percentages of those that voted for Trump are beginning to say, man, maybe I made a mistake? Maybe they won't openly say it, but you think that's crossing people's minds right now?
I think it is. I heard this morning, and one of the Mexican reporters says that they think that he's already in the lowest approval rate in the That it's since the last time he ran for, well, when he was president, actually. So who knows? También I know that there's a lot of people that no matter what he does, por más apestosa que está la mierda,
I just, in Florida, the Venezuelan community in Florida were, they were. That's a huge.
He lied to us.
Yep.
Yeah, they're really like. There's a town, was it Doral or something, and they call it Little Venezuela. I'm not sure in Florida, but those people, they were interviewing the leaders in that community, and they were showing like an area of business where because of the immigration issue, that no one's out shopping. They were just, it was live on TV. It was an interview. And people, the lady said, or the person said that during this time, usually people are out shopping. But because now they're focusing on the Venezuelans, in that area, and I know they voted for Trump because I lived in South Florida and I know they support it. And they put a lot of fear in those people. So another thing with politics, obviously the algorithm, right? So depending on what region you're in, there's a possibility that they played each section of this country differently in regards to the messaging.
Well, two things that I saw today. Mm-hmm. First of all, before the start of the union address, a Republican congressman said, my people are in favor of what we're doing, of what President Trump is doing. Yet, the irony is that earlier today, a missive was sent out to all the Republican congressmen not to have town hall meetings.
Yeah.
And so...
Because it was hitting the media.
The problem is that the media goes to the congressman and say, Congressman, how are your people all my people in my district love what we're doing. But they don't go to the people in the district. And when they do, they single out the people that still support Trump for whatever the reasons.
They show the narrative.
And the other thing is that I was at Best Buy today. I had to go have my computer checked. And I'll try not to exaggerate. I won't exaggerate. I'm going to tell you that probably there were 5 of us consumers in the entire building. And I'm exaggerating there because I didn't see anybody else but myself. But the place was empty, and I looked around, and I saw these employees just kind of talking to themselves, among themselves. Others just walking up and down.
Why do you think that is?
Well, it's what's going on right now. I mean, people are afraid. Are you going to buy? They interviewed a person that from Pennsylvania that owns a dealership, a Dodge dealership, and the guy is pissed off because he said that he had a customer that was going to buy a truck for $80,000. $80,000. Now that same truck is up today. It's $100,000.
Same truck, just
so the guy's not going to buy the truck. And go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, now that we're getting to that subject, now here comes the tariff taxes, that 25%, Mexico 25%, Canada 10 to 15 on China. What's going to happen to the consumer? ¿Qué es lo que va a pasar? I mean,
someone's got to pay for it.
Mexico ain't going to pay for it. Canada's not going to pay for it. You want my product? Here's my product, and it's going to cost you $10,000 as an example. What you do with that product is up to you, America. And it's. Now you have a tariff on that thing that you paid for, not Mexico or Canada. You paid for it. Now you have to get your money back plus the profit. So that $10,000 is not going to be $13,000.
So when the price of eggs went up, right, and people, ethnically or culturally, like I didn't see a lot of Mexicanos was like concerned about, se subieron los precios de los huevos. Maybe some people said that. But breaking news, now we have, the CEO from Target himself today or yesterday, he said basically strawberries, bananas, and avocados. So for those of you who make your smoothies on a Saturday or a Sunday or in the morning, your prices are going to go up, but also avocados. Guacamole. For those who like to put, dip in that guacamole, are going to have some price increase, but también it's interesting because I did go to Costco maybe like 2-3 weeks ago, and we went back in the area with the eggs, right? There was not eggs, and I saw this lady's behavior like rapidly just grabbing the eggs, just throwing it in with the kids just around, and I was like, "What's going on, man?"
Like fear mongering,
and it was just like she was just so concerned, like we got to get the eggs, but yet the price went up still, and obviously. It's all a gimmick, and And I think, with our raza and in our community, what did we do when we were kids, when we were poor? Growing up, you could say, and I'll say poor socioeconomically, but and also just economically. I remember si tienes una papa, right, una cebolla, and whatever was in it, they would create whatever in this, but we kept the family tight,
Facts.
And those are the things that I think, right now for our raza, just remember those things, those historical things when you did walk to the store, go buy groceries and you had groceries in your hands walking home, we're so spoiled today that we forget, we are survivors. We never left this land. We were a part of this land. And then when it comes to, these tariffs, obviously, I'm not an economist, but I could say that, I think we will endure, we will survive, we will continue based on, okay, maybe you're not going to have this week, pero sabes que, you know what? Vele a darle un abrazo a tu abuela.
How many times in our countries or nuestra propia familia, nomás había frijoles y carne una vez a la semana. So I mean, it's not something that's new to our community. So we adapt when it comes to the groceries, right? True. During COVID,
Grandma decía, échale más agua al caldo.
Yeah, échale más agua al caldo. And during COVID, I mean, it was back to the basics. Arroz, frijoles. My wife learned how to bake bread. To this day, she's baking bread. She's awesome. Shout out to my wife.
Nice.
Hey.
But it was one of those things that for us, it was like we adapted, frijoles, arroz, lo que se podía conseguir, because I don't know if you guys remember, you couldn't find shit at the stores, man. Mm-hmm. So again, when it comes to groceries and y cómo comemos and all of that, for those that have been in the struggle and have struggled before, you adapt. Sopita, ramen, sopita de vaso, how you call it. But where it really impacts is those that are trying to buy a home. Most lumber is imported from Canada.
Construction.
Good point.
Construction, the price of homes, the construction industry, and the vehicles. Forget about the vehicle. Maybe you're not going to get a new car this year or for the next 5, 6, 7 years. But lumber, produce, which equates to jobs, because if nobody's buying at the supermarket, like Fernando said, not that very many people shopping. Because all of a sudden we got to think about, well, ¿qué si se viene una recesión? ¿Qué si se ponen las cosas más duras? Do I really want to spend on this luxury thing that is not really a need, it's more of a want? So people start watching their dollars a little bit more. Maybe right now they can still afford it, but they don't know what's to come, so they're not spending. So it's going to impact everybody's economy, because if you're not shopping, you're not going to go eat, because hay comida en la casa, you're not going to go eat. That means that waiter, that busboy, that dishwasher, that person working in the restaurant industry, they're going to get laid off. How long before that happens?
And like the CEO said today from Target, he said that, we depend on, agriculture from Mexico during the wintertime. But what I did also look into before, how the strategy from Mexico's perspective, that, their tariffs are also based in areas where there are Republican people in that community. So they pinpoint their tariffs in regards to that, so they could affect them specifically, because I think the United States, because we are abundantly wealthy, I think we're kind of waiting more on the long game versus the short game. And unfortunately, sometimes, certain other countries that they pick on, they can't afford to go the long game. But I know that there's probably going to be the tariffs that are going to be specifically located to certain regions of the country.
Well, Canada already said we're not buying, liquor from Kentucky.
There you go.
And they're big consumers of alcohol. I mean, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's gonna impact. Esto lo más feo y lo que me da más lástima es de que the people that feel the most impact are those that have the least, right? Because if you have the funds, you can navigate through this process. You can waiver the storm, right? But for those that don't have, how long can they last? How long can they go without, being able to feed their families without income or things like that?
I was telling that to my son today. I was telling him, look, I'm like, luckily we're in the business to business game. Luckily we're in marketing, where our target, customer is locals, isn't that? But just a shirt alone, if you paid for a shirt, let's say $3, and then they got the manufacturer from China to the vendor, distributor, the distributor is going to do a markup. Now instead of paying that $3, you're paying $3.25 plus a markup. Now it's a $4.50. Once I get it, I have to do a markup.
Yep.
When it comes to, I retail it. Now that shirt that you used to buy for $5, Dr. Quintana, that I would put your logo on it, now you're paying $7 plus my logo. and maybe you could afford it. You're good. You're Dr. Quintana. But what's gonna happen to that mom?
Adjustment.
What's gonna happen to the mom that needs those shirts for school comes and they need una camiseta para cada de mis hijos, one shirt. Maybe she can't afford 5 shirts. Maybe she's gonna have to do 3 and wash or whatever. Those are the people that really is gonna affect.
Yeah.
Because she's not paying that 25%. She's paying 50, 60% more than she was. Because all these 3 people, including myself, we're gonna cover our ass.
And now that you're talking about B2B, right? Business to business marketing or business to business, perspective for healthcare, this is when affordable healthcare matters, because during the COVID, the pandemic, I didn't close my doors. I did all the regulation stuff, whatever we had to follow from the beginning to the end. And what I did is I ended up, actually lowering my prices because it's healthcare, and then people needed health. And so a lot of patients were coming in the office. And this is my personal story, because I'm on Bonanza and Eastern, which is pura raza. And then I would get patients who I got a lot of cancer patients during that time because they were suffering pain and they couldn't go to their doctors because they had to do Zoom, or they didn't have the ability to do Zoom. People were getting infections where I had to help them, try to get them to the emergency room. I would have phone calls. I even had one of my patients, Aurelio, I'll never forget him, from Oaxaca. He brought my first bottle of mezcal from Oaxaca. He died indirectly, and it was unfortunate. On a Saturday morning, Aurelio called me, and I'm still friends with his wife, and I take care of the family. She calls me, Elvia calls me, Cesar, dile adios, Aurelio. I had to say goodbye to my friend on a phone call on a Saturday morning because he couldn't get the proper care because he had cancer during pandemic, and he didn't know how to clean the bag, and also his personal health in regards to that. And I had to send him to the emergency room, and he made it. And on a Wednesday, he called me that Wednesday before he passed away. He says, man, gracias, me siento muy bien. And on Saturday morning, I had to tell him goodbye. I had to say goodbye to him. And it's unfortunate because, once again, it's the human life. We have to have, care, and it's called health care, right? But when it comes to business, I do believe in compassionate business making, which sometimes, we do have to make certain, I'm sure you've done it before, where you kept that person because the value and it's a cycle. And that sometimes is important too when it comes to laying out people.
Sometimes it's not about the money.
Keep the right people too. And you're fortunate. And sometimes people have to do part-time. They did that during that. And I know you talked about the city too. Where they have to do what is necessary. But when it comes to like certain industries like healthcare, you know what? We have to be there for people in case of emergency. And I know I was there, and I'm proud because as a Chicano, Mexicano, Latino, my long career, I practiced in different states. If I was born for a certain part of my career was the pandemic, and I was busy, and I was there every day. I didn't. Unfortunately, I was healthy. I think those frijoles de la olla they worked, and my dad power soup helped me to maintain myself. Pero I went through a process, and I realized that how important. That's why I'm here today, is to understand that we can work, we could do these things, but you know what? If we don't have our health, if we don't maintain our elderly, as our population, Latino population gets older, Chicano population, who's going to be there for the elders later on, right? Besides,
who's there for them now?
Well, there you go.
Because. It's so ironic and so sad that this individual that shot the CEO of British United Healthcare,
yes,
they killed him. Yet people went to court to cheer for him.
I think he's a hero.
Because of what the healthcare industry is doing to all of us.
All the denials.
But again, something like that had already started. It's always been there like that. Elon Musk and Donald Trump are coming in with a brand new ball game that is dirtier than anything can be. In again, completely and totally getting rid of even the VA. We see a soldier or something. They're interviewing a soldier on TV. Thank you for your service. And then a year later, he's out there in a corner begging for money. And when he needs health care, he's got to go through loops and hoops and everything else to get some kind of health care. Now, it's going to be even worse. We see homeless people out there now, and it's going to double, if not triple, because of what's going on right now. Right now, as we speak, in its 43 days, all the harm that has been caused in 43 days. Understand, and I'm sure you do, that we voted the guy in for 4 years. And if he's done that harm in less than, or just a little over 1 month, imagine what he's going to do in those 3.5
What I ask myself,
years.
what is the end game? What is it? Is it really about
Money and power.
More money, more power?
Money and power.
Yeah.
And we saw it Friday when he ridiculed Zelensky. You know, but the thing is that he's putting our country in jeopardy. Allies like Mexico and Canada that used to be our friends are now our enemies. And our enemies like Russia,
Well, look at the UN
and
partners.
North Korea are now the friends.
UN partners. I mean, you know, the geopolitical group in Europe, they're like, what the fuck is going on here? You know, we used to be all part of.
We could rely on you guys.
Part of the UN, right? So now it's like, you know, he wants to pull out of the UN as well. I mean, where does it stop? And at the end of the day, the rich and powerful can weather the storm. They have the funds and the resources to weather the storm. But everybody else, what's going to become of that? Is it part of the process of the ethnic cleansing, you know, of getting rid of the poor and the unwanted and the, you know, whatever, and then continue growing that particular, you know, group of people? I mean,
Private interests.
You know, the Elon Musk. I mean, this guy is more powerful than the president. I mean, they criticize Zelensky for not wearing a suit. This dude does interviews in the Oval Office, you know, with a T-shirt and a ball cap.
Allow me to say this, gentlemen. This is a very good quote I came across the other day, and I want to share this right now. This is a quote by Stuart L. Udall. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And it says, "We have, I fear, confused power with greatness." And I think that's where we're at right now, with everybody acting very fearful of this man that's in power, but it does not make him great. If we kind of just put ourselves maybe 10 years, 15 years, 20 years from now, how are we going to look back on this history and what this man is doing to the people and to the country? Just because he's all powerful does not make him all great. And if we want to talk about people that have a lot of money, that act with integrity and that have really good morals, you could really look at someone like Warren Buffett, for instance, the Oracle of Omaha, who's been a world-renowned wealthy investor in the stock market for a very long time, ever since he was a kid. And he pays his taxes, by the way, and he's not shy about saying that. And he said publicly recently, tariffs are an act of war. So I listen to this man when he talks. Sure, you can say whatever you want about him, and you don't have to listen to my opinion.
¿Cómo se llama?
Warren Buffett.
Oh, okay.
Warren
Sorry
Buffett.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
he actually has the most liquid person with the money.
Most cash.
The most
cash.
right?
Yeah.
Yep.
All liquid.
He and Bill
taxes.
Gates and others are doing, I think, in my opinion, the right thing as far as with their cash. But then you have all the others, you know, that are really so power hungry and money hungry that they go blind. And one thing is that Donald Trump looks upon himself as powerful. Europe does not. The problem with Europe is the same problem with the Democrats. They don't know how to wrestle in the mud like this guy does, you know. And right now we're in the mud, and the problem is that they're going to wake up a little too late. Trump is doing what Hitler did in the 30s and 40s, but Hitler was very obviously abrupt, you know, going to war,
military,
physical war.
Yeah.
You know, Trump is doing it in the economic aspect of things, you know, and he's trying to buy Panama and Greenland and other areas where bases can be built. He wants the Gaza Strip to be his, the USA's, his, and to me it's to, in case of a war, when finally people wake up to see what the heck's happening, it's going to be a little too late because he's got.
Well, think about like somebody that's a authoritarian, right? That's in a position of power, que quiere conquistar más terrenos, that wants to conquer other spaces. You want to grow your empire. You want to grow your kingdom. That's what he's trying to do. Now, think about this. When the United States tries to punish like Russia or Cuba, what do? They give them sanctions, right?
Sanctions.
You sanction them, and you cut off the economic flow, like Cuba.
Supply chains and whatnot.
Look where Cuba's at, where Venezuela's at. What we try to do to Russia to punish them for their bad behavior. Tariffs is the same thing, except you're doing it to your country.
Yep.
And to your allies.
To your allies, to your country and your allies. So realistically, they're using the same concept of sanctions to other countries that we're trying to punish or regulate or whatever you want to call it. But we're doing it in the form of tariffs for our biggest allies, our biggest partners, which is north of us, Canada, and south of us, Mexico, but also our residents, the people that live within this country. So that's where I find it ironic that it's the same concept, but with a different word, and that's the impact that we're going to do. We're going to choke out economically our country.
I think, too, if you would ask me, in my opinion, is that someone that has that much power in that position, being the president of the United States, the commander in chief of our military forces, which is the greatest military force in the whole entire world, you have to be held to a higher level of accountability for the way that you conduct yourself, and for the way that he conducted himself in the Oval Office, and letting that everyone gang up on another president that's coming trying to end a war so his people stop dying. That shows just bad moral character, in my opinion. And the fact that he can get away with those type of things by bullying people the way he used to do, like in Manhattan and in realty and real estate, it just really shows you what type of man that he is. And there's an old Greek proverb that goes back and says, the measure of a man is what he does with power. So the fact that he's the president, and that so many people are seeing that if this person can act like this and be the president of the United States, that's a very big problem, because then it empowers them to act just like a bully as well. And what does that do to our country? What does that do to our people? It just creates a big divide, because some people are more grounded with their morals and with their integrity, and they know better than that. And you got people running amok and saying whatever they want to. And that kind of leads into the next topic, which is Nevada AG launches a new hate crime hotline, 775-687-HATE-4283, because of everything that's been going around in the city right now. So I saw this on the news, and they said, please call this number if you are a victim of a hate crime and if you feel comfortable with reporting it. Gentlemen, what do you think about this?
Shit, you guys remember after 9/11? Man, anybody that was Middle Eastern or looked a little Middle Eastern?
Yeah.
They were getting bombed on, man. They were getting busted up in the street, everywhere. The hate was at that level. I remember that time. And right now with what's going on, it's taking us back to the first 4 years when he was elected. I mean, these, white nationalists marching with the Nazi flag in public, and they were fine guys. There's, good people, como les dijo. And the reality of it is that, we do see a lot more crimes on minorities because it's acceptable at the highest level in this country.
The news clip that they had, it was a woman that was just working at a restaurant in North Las Vegas, and then some lady, some Karen we'll call her, came up and started chasing her around the restaurant and says, show me your social security card, show me your ID. Just someone that's at the restaurant being a patron harassing this worker. What is that?
You know what? I got a quick story about 9/11 because I was at chiropractic school in Los Angeles, in California, California. And 2 weeks after 9/11, after the whole incident happened, like maybe 3 weeks, I was getting together with, I was the assistant athletic director for my school for sports. So we were getting together for the chiropractic Olympics. It might not be exciting for you guys, but it's a chiropractic Olympics, and
that's one step up from the Special Olympics.
I was in charge. I was in charge, of putting together the teams, and we traveled to Davenport, Iowa, which is the mecca for chiropractic. Plus, there was the school there, right? So it was a Sunday. I arrived, and this is an interesting story because you're correct, brother, because it happened to me. There was only 3 Mexicanos in the class, so
wow.
It was on a Sunday. So I asked my homeboy who was with me. I said, "Hey man, let's go get a haircut." You know how it is to go get a haircut with your homeboy, right? So we were in Davenport, Iowa. It was USA everywhere. We're all united, right? As a people, and it was I'm walking downtown, and I walked up to an older Iowa white couple, big, tall, farmer-looking guy, and I said, "Excuse me, sir." I go, "Do you know where I can get a haircut?" It was Sunday, so we're walking by the hotels and stuff, and I said, "Excuse me, sir, you know where I can get a haircut?" He bends down to me, and this is a true story, and he says, and I looked over to the right, there was a bus stop, was a black lady sitting there, and I look at the whole scene, and he says, "I wouldn't be brown pigment if I was you around here." And I said, "Excuse me?" I go, "Excuse me," because I was taught like to help somebody repeat something, you could say, "Excuse me," right?
Yeah.
And I was, I was in their world, and so I was very respectful. I said, "Excuse me," and he says, at the same time, his wife backs up, grabs her purse like this, and I'm looking at this black person over there, and I'm like brown skin like this, and they had just killed a Sikh in Iowa prior to me arriving there, and I didn't realize, like, wait a minute, I'm kind of similar. And I asked him I said, "Excuse me," and he repeated, he goes, "I wouldn't be brown pigment if I was you around here." I said, "Sir, you know what? I can just get a haircut. All I'm trying to do is get a haircut." "Oh, you can go to the mall." And it like shifted. And I'm like, wow, I'm experiencing this right now. And I was like, my color at the time was worse than, a person who's African-American from their experience, having that experience. And I'm like, man, it happened. I know it happened in Texas. It happened in, in different parts of the country when it comes to racism. And I realized, and I actually got stuck in a van. The same thing happened in a van going from the hotel to the chiropractic school. And this guy just started going off on like brown people, the Asians. And I was like, just get me out of here, brother. I'm just trying to get to a place. But it's true, man. When we start feeling that stress, I've experienced that, and I have experienced it on many different occasions in soccer. As a doctor in Phoenix, I experienced that too, because in Phoenix, when I was practicing there, people didn't believe I was a doctor. I would say, "Excuse me, how you doing? My name is Dr. Cesar Quintana." I don't have an accent,
Yeah.
And so in Phoenix, people would say, "You're a doctor?" I say, "Yeah, I'm a doctor."
Show me your papers.
And I was, I have so many stories.
Salvador. Salvador,
I'm-
este vato no es chiropractor.
I had, just a little more stories. I was at Baja Fresh. Are you guys familiar with Baja Fresh? Okay. I was standing by the salsa bar, loading up, waiting with another customer there. And I was in North Phoenix, off of Union Hills. I had a clinic there, business there with some other people. And I went to Baja Fresh. I had my polo shirt, and it said Dr. Cesar Quintana with my logo on it. Okay, you like logos, you know how it is. And I'm sitting there talking to this lady, hey, I'm just here, whatever, having a conversation. And at the end, me being a marketer, in a sense, been promoting my business, I hand her a business card, right? And you guys know Baja Fresh has like white shirts with Baja Fresh on it.
Yeah.
And I was having a full-on conversation about something. I hand her my card. I go, "Ma'am," I go, "if you ever need a doctor of chiropractic, my name is Dr. Cesar Quintana. I'm here right down the street." And she looked at me. She goes, once again, she said, "You don't work here?" I was like, "No, ma'am, I don't work here." I said, "As a matter of fact, my name is Dr. Cesar Quintana." So some people, and sometimes it's innocent, but also, you could be rude and you could tell, "Hey, you're crazy," whatever. No, I just kind of talked to her and say, "Look, if you look at the people at Baja Fresh, they have Baja Fresh, And I went through that process from 2002 to 2005. So I can relate and stuff, and you bring those memories back in regards to that, because even, it's important not to live like that, but also to just educate people in the moment. And sometimes you can't. You just got to move on.
So did you guys hear about that young girl? I think it was in Texas, 11-year-old that ended up committing suicide because they were teasing her at school because their parents were going to call ICE on her family, and the little girl didn't know how to deal with her stress, and she ended up taking her life. That's the extreme of the hate crimes. That's the extreme of being able to, impact someone's life to the point where either you act out in violence or you get defensive and you end up fighting with somebody. You end up getting charged. So I mean, it gets pretty bad. I don't know what that number, that hotline is going to do. If they're just taking down information, it boils down to if it's acceptable in your community, if law enforcement accepts it or supports it. I think that's where it's going to make the most impact. Definitely being able to report, these crimes. These victims are comfortable enough to report these things, especially if they don't have legal status.
Thank you.
Gracias. Just reminding everybody, man, todos somos hijos de Dios, sin importar el color. And we got to tell raza that, don't wave down, levanten el pecho, and ignorance will be always ignorance. That's all I have to say about racism.
You know, if I could say something in closing too, I'd hate to end this this podcast on a negative note. Even though there's difficult times, siempre, especialmente, we know how we did it with our family. Even in the worst of times, we were there for each other. I think we just expand that circle a little bit more, and we were there for each other beyond our immediate families. You know, we embrace our community. If we have the means and the resources and the information, let's share it. You know, let's help those that need the support any way that we can.
And at the same time, our doors are open over here. There's our great people I'm surrounding myself with. This is a great round table. I am humbled and honored to be part of it. And we are here for our community, and we are here to lead and to also be led.
Viva la raza. Yo soy Joaquin.
Amen. On behalf of everybody here at the table, thank you for tuning in to the Yo Soy Joaquin Podcast, Episode 2.
Dios me los bendiga.